Right. Okay. Good evening to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Udar, am I audible? Good evening to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Fine. Okay. Right. So today, basically, we are going to cover a very important topic which comes under AAT final auditing paper. Which is basically introduction to internal control. So when you look at from the broader perspective, internal control segment basically covering up almost 25% of your syllabus. So today we will be laying the foundation for that. So it's basically a free seminar to all the students. So which is basically for the people who purchase the vLearning pack from JMC, and for the physical students who are participating to our AAT final physical class, and it's open discussion to all the other students as well. So within this 2.5 hours or 3 hours time, basically I will be covering the introduction section of internal control. So then the video recording will be updated, will be uploaded to the JMC vLearning platform as well, so that this segment will be covering up today itself. So, but when you look at from the broader perspective, the entire segment we cannot cover within 3 hours. So it will take a few additional hours to cover, since we do have some business processes to be discussed. But the first segment, which is considered as the introduction to internal control, so we will be discussing today, and we will be finishing that, so that straight away from the vLearning platform we can move to business processes as well. So that when I'm conducting this lecture series, when I'm conducting this series today, so I will be using the whiteboard and I will be using the smart board as well. So then if you do have any clarifications to raise, so you are free to ask any questions when the session continues. Right. Okay. We'll move to the whiteboard first, so that I will be doing this entire segment by way of a short note, so that you can refer the short note at the end of the session, and the vLearning team basically uploaded the tute as well, so that you can refer that tute once the session is completed as well. Right. So basically, when you look at from the broader perspective, what do you mean by internal control? When you look at from broader perspective, what do you mean by internal control? So for you to get a better understanding with regard to internal controls, I would say first of all, you need to learn the objectives of internal controls. Objectives of internal controls. මොනවද අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් වල අරමුණු වෙන්නේ? Objectives of internal controls. So what are the objectives of internal control? So the entire session will be covering up through this flow chart, so that you can take down whatever the notes. So once we concluded this flow chart, so we'll go to the presentation which is basically shared in the smart board as well. Right. So what are the objectives of internal controls? So when you look at from the broader perspective, there are three types of objectives. There are three types of objectives which is applicable for internal controls. So what would be the first one? First one is considered as increase in the reliability. Increase in the reliability of financial reporting. Increase in the reliability of financial reporting. So we'll take few examples and we'll discuss in detail. Okay, so increasing the reliability of financial reporting. Now the concern arises how internal controls increase in the reliability of the financial reporting. අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් කොහොමද මූල්‍ය වාර්තාකරණයේ විශ්වසනීයත්වය ඉහළ නංවන්නේ? Right. Okay. For you to give a better understanding, we'll take at least 2 or 3 examples. Right, for an example, let's say a common control which has been implemented in most of the business organizations, right? Let's say when the business organization is making a payment, so let's say the clerk will prepare the payment voucher. Whereas the cash will be released by the cashier. So you have from one hand you have the clerk who prepare the payment voucher with the relevant supporting documents, and from the other hand you have the cashier who basically issuing cash. But in the middle of the cashier and in the middle of the accounts clerk, so there is a person called finance manager. So finance manager put a control like this. Finance manager clearly give instruction to the clerk to bring the payment voucher to him for his approval. So at the time the business organization wanted to make a payment, so the clerk will prepare the payment voucher and the same payment voucher will be forwarded to the finance manager for the approval. So at the time of finance manager approving the payment, he will be basically justifying himself with regard to the payment, so that he will be refer the supporting documents and he will be approving the payment. So upon receiving the approval only, the cashier will release us cash. So the cashiers are advised not to release any cash in the absence of the authorized payment voucher, approved payment voucher. Right. So as a result of that, will it increase the reliability of the financial reporting? Yes, because in between the cashier and the clerk, there is an independent person called finance manager, where he approves all the payments before cashier releases cash. So at the end of the day, as a result of that control, you are basically increasing the reliability of financial reporting. Let's take another example. Right, preparation of bank reconciliations. So when you are preparing a bank reconciliation, you are basically reconciling your cash book bank balance with the bank statement balance. You are basically reconciling the cash book bank balance with the bank statement balance. Through that, you can increase the reliability of financial reporting, because for an example, when you refer the bank statement, there can be so many transactions which has been not recorded in our GL. When you refer the bank statement, there can be so many transactions which has not been recorded in our GL. For an example, direct deposits. Customers basically directly depositing either cash or checks to our bank account. So until we prepare the bank reconciliation, those entries are not entered to the accounting system itself. Then the standing orders. So what do you mean by standing order? You have given a clear instruction to the bank to process a particular payment, a recurring payment on regular basis, on monthly basis, or whatever the applicable frequency. So you will be entering those transactions. To the accounting module at the time of you preparing the bank reconciliation. So without completing the bank reconciliations, you can't say we have finalized the financial statements. Bank reconciliation එකක් හරි pending තියෙනවා නම් අපිට මූල්‍ය වාර්තා ඉවරයි කියන්න බෑ. So if the bank reconciliations are pending, that means your financial statements are incomplete. So as the finance manager, so let's say you become a finance manager one day. So once you become a finance manager, before you review the financial statements, you need to check whether the bank reconciliations are fully completed or not. If the bank reconciliations are not fully completed, it implies that your financial statements are incomplete. So then it will increase what? Increasing the reliability of financial reporting. So likewise, there are so many internal controls. Let's take another classic example. Most of the business organizations are maintaining a debtors control account. Why you are maintaining a debtors control account? The closing balance of the debtors control account has to be tally with your debtors ledger. Then the business organizations are maintaining creditors control account. The closing balance of the creditors control account has to be tally with what? Creditors ledger. Agree? So if those are not matching each other, you can't say the financial statements are complete. නායකගේ පාලන ගිණුමේ ශේෂය නායකගේ ලෙජරයත් එක්ක ටැලි වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් නාහිමි පාලන ගිණුමේ ශේෂය නාහිමි ලෙජරයත් එක්ක ටැලි වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් your accounts are incomplete. So therefore most of the internal controls which is basically implemented by the business organization will have a direct impact to the financial reporting, and one of the objective of internal control is to increase the reliability of the financial reporting. So increasing the reliability of financial reporting is considered as one of the key objectives of the business organization to implement internal controls, right? Okay, are we clear on this?
Yes.
ළමයි එක තේරුණාද? Are we clear on that? Yes or no? Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Then what is the second objective? Second objective is increasing the efficiency and effectiveness. Increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations. So as a result of the internal controls, the business organizations are in a position to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of operations. So we'll take a classic example for this. Right. So let's say with regard to increasing efficiency and effectiveness of operation, we'll take an example. So let's say the company, there is a risk of company faces to a stock outage situation. Let's say there are situations where the production is getting halted as a result of unavailability of raw materials. As a result of the unavailability of raw materials, your production might get halted. අමුද්‍රව්‍ය නොමැති වීම නිසා එකපාරට ව්‍යාපාරයේ තියෙන මෙහෙයුම් කටයුතු නවතින්න පුළුවන්. Okay, for you to control that, for you to minimize that, you can implement internal control. What is that internal control? You can establish proper stock levels. So for an example, let's say when you decided your maximum stock level, and when you decided your minimum stock level, and when you decided your reorder level, the storekeepers are exactly know at which point they are going to order the goods. Agreed. For an example, right? So we'll put that to a chart. Okay, so let's say this is the chart that you are going to prepare. Okay, here you will be having the stock levels. Then here you will be having the time. So we'll take a example. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300 and 350. So these are considered as stock levels. So all the business organizations should maintain a maximum stock level. This is referred as maximum stock level. Maximum stock level. So if you are keeping a stock which go beyond the maximum stock level, there is a specific cost which is going to increase. What is that cost? Your holding cost is getting increased. Stock holding cost getting increased. And the business organization should maintain what? A minimum stock level as well. Minimum stock level. So if you are keeping stock below the minimum stock level, there is a specific cost which is going to increase. What is that? Ordering cost. Then the business organization should maintain another stock level called reorder level, ROL. Reorder level. So this is the point where you need to order the new goods, new raw materials, right? So let's say the time is starting from April and ending from March. Okay, so let's say company is maintaining the maximum stock level. With the usage, when the time passes by with the usage, your stock is getting reduced. When the stocks comes to this point, this is the point where the storekeeper should raise the PR. Storekeeper should raise the PR. What do you mean by PR? Purchase requisition. Based on the PR, the purchasing department will raise a document called PO, purchase order, so that they will be placing the order from the suppliers. So then you will be having enough stock to run the operations. You will be having enough stock to run the operation. So in that context, when the inventory level or the raw material level comes to the minimum stock level, then your basically stock level goes up once again. Clear? Then again, when the time passes by, when the usage, you will be reached to the reorder level. So once you reach to the reorder level, you need to raise the PR and the PO, and you will be having ample amount of stock in your warehouse to run the operations. So likewise, you can have a better control over the production process. So this is a classic example of an internal control, how it impacts to the efficiency and effectiveness of the business operations. So most of the internal controls which prevails in the business organization will increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the operations as well. So the second objective of an internal control system is to what? Is to increase efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Right. We'll take another example. So let's say in the current business context, you can't do sales on cash basis, no? You can't do sales on cash basis. So some kind of a credit sales has to be there. Okay, let's say even though you made the credit sales, if the debtors are not settling on time, so your company might face us to working capital issues. ණයගැතියන් නිසි කාලයට සල්ලි ගෙව්වේ නැති වුණාම කාරක ප්‍රාග්ධන දුෂ්කරතා එන්න පුළුවන්. When your debtors are not settling on time, so you are basically facing to working capital issues. Okay, in order to manage that, you need to implement a control. What is that control? You need to establish proper credit limits. You need to establish proper credit limits within your business organization. So you need to categorize your debtors into different categories. Category A, Category B, Category C and Category D. Likewise, you need to classify the debtors. And for each and every debtor, you need to check the volume of the transaction and you need to decide on a specific credit limit. So then you need to have a specific credit limit and you need to give a credit period as well. So through this control, you can manage your working capital. Through this control, you can manage your debtors, which has direct impact on the efficiency and effectiveness of what? Efficiency and effectiveness of operations. So the second objective of business organization to implement internal control is to increase efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, are we clear on the second objective? Any questions? Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. Then the final objective, third one, compliance with laws and regulations. Compliance with laws and regulations. Compliance with laws and regulations. So when you look at from the compliance perspective, there are internal laws and there are external laws. Okay, there are internal laws and there are external laws. So one of the objectives of internal control is to compliance with rules and regulations. So for an example, if you take a commercial bank, so I will be taking some real life examples. So commercial banks, so all the commercial banks should maintain a statutory reserve in Central Bank of Sri Lanka. සෑම වාණිජ බැංකුවක්ම මහ බැංකුවේ තියාගෙන යන්න ඕන ව්‍යවස්ථාපිත සංචිතය කියලා එකක්. In business studies, you may have learned that. So if the bank violated that threshold, if the bank violated that percentage, Central Bank of Sri Lanka is having the ability to cancel the license as well. A percentage එක maintain කරේ නැත්නම්, so the bank will has to face us to some adverse repercussions. So in order to control that kind of a non-compliance situation, business organization should implement internal controls. Business organization should implement internal controls. So for an example, let's say in my business organization, we do have a compliance officer. Remember, internal controls can be implemented through people as well. Agreed, internal controls can be implemented through people as well. Internal controls may not 100% automated. Internal control හැම එකම ස්වයංක්‍රීය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So පුද්ගලයාගේ මැදිහත් වෙනොත් internal control වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So for an example, in the business organization where I am working at, we do have a compliance officer in our business organization. So he will make sure that the business organization is complied with what? Internal laws and regulations plus external laws and regulations as well. So recruiting a compliance officer itself considered as internal control. Clear? So recruiting a compliance officer for the business organization to check whether the business organization is complied with rules and regulation itself is considered as what? Considered as internal control. So then the third objective of internal control is to compliance with laws and regulations, right? Okay, so remember, when you look at from the broader perspective, So these are the main objectives of business organizations having an internal control. These are the main objectives of business organizations having an internal control. So are we clear on the objectives of internal controls? Right. So if you clear about the objectives of internal controls, you can have your own definition. You can have your own definition with regard to internal controls. Objectives ටික දන්නවා නම් you can have your own definition with regard to internal control. So what do you mean by internal control then? In simple language, internal controls can be defined as this. It is a process, activity, program implemented by management in order to achieve the above mentioned objectives. Very simple. Above mentioned objectives. It is a process, activity, program implemented by whom? By management in order to achieve the above mentioned objectives. What do you mean by above mentioned objectives? These are the objectives. These are the objectives. Those are considered as what? Those are considered as internal controls. Clear? So if someone is asking you, what is the definition of internal control? So what is the answer? Internal controls can be defined as a process, activity, program implemented by the management in order to achieve the following objectives. What are the objectives? Increase in the reliability of financial reporting, increase in the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, and compliance with laws and regulations. So if you once you identified your objectives clearly, so you can have your own definition as well. Clear? So if someone is asking you going forward, if someone is asking you what is the definition of internal controls, what is the answer that you need to give? Internal controls can be defined as a process, program, activity implemented by the management or people who are responsible for good governance of the organization or board of directors. So implemented by the management or the board of directors in order to achieve the above mentioned objectives are referred as what? Referred as internal control. So are we clear on the definitions then? Any questions? Any questions? Are we clear up to that point? If you do have any questions, please speak because the laptop is a bit far from me. So if you put some what do you call comment with regard to some questions, so I need to go to that laptop and check, but I would like if you can speak. Okay, are we clear on the definition?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, moving on. So I'll go to the presentation once I completed the entire thing. Okay, I'll go to the presentation once I completed the entire thing. Okay, then okay, for you to have better internal control system, within the business organization, what you wanted to have? For you to have better internal control system within the business organization, for you to have better internal control system within the business organization to achieve these objectives, what you wanted to have? මේ අරමුණු ටික මුදුන් පමුණවා ගන්න අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනය ස්ථාපිත කරන්න තියෙන්න ඕන කාරණා මොනවාද? Those are referred as elements of internal controls, which has been frequently tested at the exam. Elements of internal controls. Elements of internal controls. So how many elements are there? How many elements are there? Okay, so when you look at from the broader perspective, there are 5 elements. When you look at from the broader perspective, there are 5 elements for you to have internal controls. Clear? Okay, what is the first element? First element is defined as control environment. Control environment. අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා පාලන පරිසරය. Okay, for business organization to have a better internal control, first thing that you need to have is what? You need to have better control environment. Okay, what do you mean by control environment? Let's see whether there are any questions raised by the students. Okay, so if you do have any questions, better to ask those questions. Huh? Right, okay. So what do you mean by control environment? What do you mean by control environment? මොකද්ද පාලන පරිසරය කියලා කියන්නේ? Okay, so let me put in this way. Okay, control environment, let me put in this way. Okay, so for an example, let's assume all of you are participating into our physical classes. Let's assume all of you are participating into our physical classes, right? If I ask this question from you, what is the end objective of you coming to this class? What is the end objective of you coming to this class? What is the end objective of you coming to this class? Okay, so I would say all the students might say, so my objective is to pass the exam. Okay, my objective is to pass the exam. Then I'm putting the second question. Okay, for you to pass the exam, what you need to do? For you to pass the exam, what you need to do? Okay, then some might say regular participation to the physical classes, right? Acceptable. Okay, then someone can say study on daily basis. Okay, it's a good answer. Then someone can say doing past papers. For you to pass the exam, we need to do past papers. A good answer again. Then someone can say preparation of short notes. Preparation of short notes. Then someone can say lecturer has to conclude the syllabus if the students want to pass the exam. Again, that is an acceptable answer. Okay, I'll take all this stuff, but as per my understanding, you need to have one thing on top of all these things. You will be studying on daily basis if you do have this. You will be doing past papers if you do have this. You will be preparing short notes if you do have this. You are participating to classes on every week if you do have this. So what is the most important thing for you to pass the exam? Most important thing for you to pass the exam is to have an attitude. You need to have a good attitude that saying that somehow I will be passing the exam. So if you do have that attitude only, you will be coming to the class. If you do have that attitude only, you will be doing past papers. If you do have that attitude only, you will be preparing short notes. If you do have that attitude only, you are studying on daily basis. So if you don't have that attitude, you are not doing anything. ඔය එක activity එකක්වත් කරන්නේ attitude එක නැත්තම්. So that attitude is referred as what? Control environment. In simple language, that attitude in the example which I took, the attitude is referred as what? Referred as a control environment. Okay, so then in broader perspective, when you look at from the internal control perspective, what do you mean by control environment? Keep it very simple. What do you mean by control environment? In simple language, control environment is the understanding that the management is having with regard to the internal controls and the importance of the internal controls to the business organization. Keep it very simple. Control environment is the understanding that the management is having with regard to the internal controls and the importance of the internal controls to the business organization. ව්‍යාපාරයේ අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් සහ ඒ අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් ව්‍යාපාරයට කොච්චර දුරට වැදගත්ද? ඔන්න ඔය කියන කාරණා දෙක සම්බන්ධයෙන් කළමනාකාරීත්වයට තියෙන අවබෝධය ආකල්ප තමයි අපි කතා කරන්නේ මොකක් කියලාද? control environment එකක් කියලා. So for you to have a better internal control system within the business organization, I would say control environment is the key factor. ඔයාට හොඳ අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයක් ව්‍යාපාරය තුළ ස්ථාපිත කරන්න ඕනේ නම් හොඳ control environment එකක් තියෙනවලු. Why? Board of directors or the management are the people who are responsible for the implementation of the internal controls. They are the people who are responsible for the implementation of the internal control. So for them to implement the internal control, they should understand the gravity first. If they wanted to implement a better internal control, they need to understand the importance of the internal control. If they do have that understanding only, they should be able to implement a better internal control. So for that, that attitude is a must. So that understanding is referred as what? Control environment. Are we clear? Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So we'll update the short note, then we'll go to the presentation. Right. Control environment. Okay. In simple language, control environment is what? It is the understanding. It is the understanding that the management is having with regard to internal controls and importance of internal controls to business organization. To business organization. So that is what you referred as what? Control environment. Right. Having control environment won't do the job unless otherwise you have another element. What is that? Having control environment won't do the job unless otherwise you have another element. What is that element? The second element is referred as control activities. Control activities. අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා පාලන ක්‍රියාකාරකම්. Control activities. Clear? So for you to have better control activities, the most important element is to have better control environment. So I can put the arrow like this. For you to have better control activities, first thing that you need to have is what? Control environment. So in my example, so what are the control activities? Example number 1. Coming to the class on weekly basis without cutting the classes. It's a control activity for you to pass the exam. Doing past papers. It's a control activity for you to pass the exam. Then preparation of short notes. It's a control activity for you to pass the exam. Clear? Studying on regular basis, at least 4 or 5 hours for a day on daily basis. It's an activity for you to pass the exam. So those are referred as what? Control activities. So in simple language, control activities are the action steps designed by the management in order to achieve the overall objectives of control environment. Keep it very simple. Control activities are the action steps. So control environment is a broader picture. Control environment is a broader picture, whereas control activity is a subpart of it. Clear? Okay, control activities are the action step implemented by the board of directors or the management to achieve the overall objectives of the control environment. That is what you referred as what? Control activities, right? So we'll take that short note as well. Okay, control activities refers to the action steps. Refers to the action steps implemented by management or board of directors to achieve the objectives of control environment. Control environment. Clear? So the control activities refers to the action steps implemented by the management or the board of directors to achieve the objectives of the control environment. මෙන්න මේකේ තියෙන අරමුණ මුදුන් පමුණුවා ගන්න අනුගමනය කරපු ක්‍රියාපටිපාටි ටික තමයි කියන්නේ control activities කියලා. Control activities are the action steps implemented by the board of directors or the management to achieve the objectives of the control environment. Okay, so for you to have better control activities, first thing that you need to have is what? Control environment. Clear? Right. Under the control activities, there is a specific terminology that all of you need to learn, which is referred as spam soap. So I will be discussing spam soap at the later stage. මම දැම්ම spam soap කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. Spam soap එක අපි කතා කරා මෙන්න මේ ටික ඉවර කළාට පස්සේ. Right. So are we clear on the first two? Are we clear on the first two? Are we clear on the first two?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Having control environment, having control activities won't do the job unless otherwise you have what? Risk assessment. Unless otherwise you have what? Risk assessment. Having control environment, having control activities won't do the job unless otherwise you have the risk assessment. Right. When you look at from the risk assessment purview, risk assessment segregated into three categories. Avadanam takseru. So you need to have a proper risk assessment process. So risk assessment process is having three sub elements. So which will be discussed at the risk segment separately. මේක අපි වෙනම segment එකක් තියෙනවා risk කියලා. අපි ඒකෙදි කතා කරනවා. So for physical student, last week I completed the risk segment. But online students, I will be upload. The JMC will upload that segment in the upcoming week. Okay, so we'll have a deep dive with regard to risk assessment when we are discussing the risk chapter. But I'll give you an overall understanding at this point. Okay, risk assessment process basically includes three sub elements. What are those three sub elements? Number one, risk identification. Risk identification. So we'll go one by one. Risk identification. Number two, risk analysis. Number three, risk evaluation. Right. So you will be having the risk identification, risk analysis, and risk evaluation. So when you consider these three segments separately, we can put the arrow like this. So then risk identification comes first, then risk analysis comes second, then risk evaluation comes third. Okay, so what do you mean by risk identification? Risk identification is all about you identify the risk. Risk identification is all about you identifying the risk. Under the risk identification segment, so there is a specific question that we are doing in the class at the latter stage, so that you will be getting an overall understanding on this. So, but in simple language, try to get the understanding. Risk identification is the point where you identify the risk. Risk can be segregated into two. Number one, you may be having internal risk and you may be having external risk. internal risk කියලා තියෙනවා, external risk කියලා තියෙනවා. අපි කියනවා අභ්‍යන්තර අවදානම් සහ බාහිර අවදානම්. So internal risk are the risk which is generated internally. Where you will be having 4 types of internal risk. Okay, I'm not going to discuss all this in this class today. So risk, when you refer internal risk are the risk which occurs within the business organization, which has 4 categories. External risk are the risk which occurs outside of the business organization, which basically divided into 2 categories. So the business organizations may face us to internal risk as well as external risk. So the difference between internal and external risk means internal risk you can control it. අභ්‍යන්තර අවදානම කියනවාට පාලනය කරන්න පුළුවන් because that happens within the business organization. අර පවුලේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇති වුණාම පවුල ඇතුළේ දේක විසඳ ගන්න පුළුවන් කියනවනේ. So that is equals to internal risk. So internal risk occurs within the business organization where you can have a better control over that. But external risk are the risk which occurs as a result of outside factors where you don't have any control. Okay? So internal risk is controllable whereas external risk is not controllable. But despite whether it is controllable or not, you need to manage the risk. That is where the risk management comes into the picture. Despite whether you can control the risk or not, you need to manage the risk. So that is where the risk management comes into the picture, which will be discussed under the risk segment separately, which is not covered today. Right. So in simple language, risk identification is a situation where you identify the risk. Risk identification is a situation where you identify the risk. So under that segment, you are basically identifying your risk as internal risk as well as external risk. Clear? Internal risk as well as external risk. Got it? Right. Are we clear up to this point? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, are we clear up to that point?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So are we clear on the risk identification?
Yeah, clear.
Right. Okay. Then comes to the risk analysis. Okay. So what do you mean by risk analysis? That is the point where you analyze the risk. That is the point where you analyze the risk. So how you are going to analyze the risk? Analysis can be done in 2 ways. Okay, so we do have a detailed example in the classroom which will be discussed at the later stage. So risk analysis can be done in 2 ways. Number 1, based on the impact of the risk. Based on the impact of the risk. So impact may be high or impact may be low. That is number 1. Number 2, based on the occurrence of the risk. Occurrence may be either high or low. So based on the impact of the risk and based on the occurrence of the risk, you need to analyze the risk. That is what you referred as what? Risk analysis. Why risk analysis is important? Why risk analysis is important? The reason is that business organization may face us to several risks simultaneously. ව්‍යාපාර ආයතනයක් ගත්තම අවදානම් ගොඩකට එකපාර මුහුණ දෙනවා. Clear? So when business organizations are facing to risk, they will be facing to different types of risk simultaneously. So therefore, when they are facing those risks simultaneously, they don't have the liberty or they don't have the freedom to respond to all the risks simultaneously. ව්‍යාපාරයට අවදානම් ගොඩක් එකපාර එනකොට ඒ හැම අවදානමකටම එකපාර response එක දෙන්න බෑ. So therefore, you need to identify the importance of the risk. Agreed, you need to identify the importance of the risk. So the importance can be identified through what? Through the risk analysis. So let's say the business organization is facing to 5 risks. Let's assume business organization is facing to 5 risks simultaneously, but that business organization is not having the liberty to give answers to all the 5 risks simultaneously. ඒ පහටම එකපාර උත්තර හොයන්න යන්න බෑ. So therefore they need to prioritize the risk and identify what is the critical risk, what is the second critical risk. Likewise, they need to identify. For them to identify, you need to analyze the risk. So analysis will be done at the second stage with a detailed aspect. So identification will be done at the broader level. Clear? Identification will be done at the grass level, but analysis will be done at the deep end. Clear? It's like this. For an example, let's say you got fever, you got influenza, then you got headache. උණත් හැදුණා, හෙම්බිරිස්සාවත් හැදුණා, කැස්සත් හැදුණා, ඔළුවත් රෙදෙනවා. Clear? Let's say on top of that, you got loose motion and you got vomiting. On top of that, you got loose motion and you got vomiting. So now you have 5 illnesses together. You got flu, you got fever, then you got cough, then vomiting and diarrhea. Clear? Now you need to decide which illness I need to cure first. That is what you referred as what? Risk analysis. Clear? උණත් හැදලා, හෙම්බිරිස්සාවත් හැදලා, කැස්සත් හැදිලා, වමනෙත් යනවා, බඩේ අමාරුවකුත් හැදෙනවා. අජීර්ණයක් වෙලා. Then you need to decide which illness I need to address first. Clear? මුලින්ම බඩේ අජීර්ණයට බෙහෙත් ගන්න ඕනේ. ඊට පස්සේ වමනෙට ගිහිල්ලා බෙහෙත් ගන්න ඕනේ. Clear? Likewise, you need to prioritize the risk. That is what you referred as what? Risk analysis. Finally, based on the analysis, you need to evaluate the risk. Evaluation is a point where you are basically prioritizing your risk. Out of the 5 risks, this risk would be the most critical one. So therefore, we need to address this risk. Out of the 5 risks, this would be the second critical risk. So therefore, we need to address to this risk. Out of those 5 risks, this would be the third risk where we need to address the risk. Out of those 5 risks, these are the 2 risks which we can accept it as it is. So therefore, we are not giving priority for that. So in that context, that is what you referred as risk evaluation. So we'll have a detailed example in the tute itself. We will be doing at the later stage during the day. So are we clear on the first 3?
Yes, sir.
Right. Then control, if having a better control environment leading to a better control activities, having better control activities will lead to what? To perform a proper risk assessment. Clear? Right. So we have discussed about 3 important elements. So control environment, control activities and risk assessment. Right. Okay. All these 3, who will be responsible for? All these. Control environment, control activities and risk assessment process. Who will be responsible for those? Board of directors and management will be responsible. Board of directors and management will be responsible. Right. So then they will be designed on the internal controls. ඒගොල්ලෝනේ අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනය නිර්මාණය කරන්නේ. ව්‍යාපාරික අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනය නිර්මාණය කරන්නේ board of directors, management, top management, or the people who are in charge with the governance. Right. What is the ultimate purpose? Even though the management design the internal controls, who is going to implement those controls? Even though the management design the internal controls, who is going to implement those internal controls? So for an example, let's say finance manager decided to implement this control. What is that control? Payment voucher has to be prepared by the payments clerk with the supporting documents, and that payment voucher has to be submitted to the finance manager for the final approval. Upon having that approval, only the cashier releases cash. Okay, so what is the purpose of finance manager design that internal control if those 2 people are unaware of that? Finance manager control එක දානවා, හැබැයි cashier දන්නෙත් නැහැ, control එක clerk දන්නෙත් නැහැ. What is the purpose of me designing an internal control if I am unable to communicate that control to my subordinates? What is the purpose of me designing an internal control if I am unable to communicate that internal control to my employees? Because even though the top management design the internal controls, who are going to implement those internal controls? The middle level and the lower level employees. Even though the top management or the board of directors or management or people who are responsible for good governance design the internal controls, who is going to implement those internal controls? Are the middle level people and the lower level people. In that context, whatever the internal controls which design at the top level has to be cascaded to the middle and the lower level as well. So that is considered as the fourth element, which is referred as information and communication. Information and communication, which is referred as information and communication. Okay, this is the point where the design internal controls are communicating to the employees who are in the middle and lower level. In the middle and lower level. Clear? Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then you can put the arrow like this. Okay, so you will be having a good control environment, good control activities, proper risk assessment, plus information and communication. All these four elements will lead to a better internal control system. All these elements will lead to a better internal control system. Then you will be having the final element, which is considered as monitoring. Monitoring and review. ඒකත් වෙන්න ඕනේ. සමීක්ෂණය හා සමාලෝචනයක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. So what do you mean by monitoring and review? Time to time at regular intervals, the efficiency and effectiveness of the design and implemented internal controls. I'm repeating that again. Listen. The efficiency and effectiveness of the design and implemented internal controls has to be reviewed at regular intervals. ඔයා නිර්මාණය කළා ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් වල කාර්යක්ෂමතාවය හා සඵලදායීත්වය නිශ්චිත කාලයෙන් කාලයට රිවිව් කරන්න ඕනේ, මොනිටර් කරන්න ඕනේ. The efficiency and effectiveness of the design and implemented internal controls has to be reviewed or monitored on regular intervals. So that is what you referred as what? Monitoring and review. So for you to have better internal control, having all these four, control environment, control activities, risk assessment and information and communication, having all those four alone will not complete the job unless otherwise you have what? Monitoring and review. Unless otherwise you have what? Monitoring and review. So monitoring and review again also considered as one of the critical element of internal control. So you can't categorize this is number 1, this is number 2, number 3, number 4. එහෙම categorize කරන්න බෑ. All these 5 elements are linked together. එක තැනක් කැඩුනොත් you are gone. Clear? It's like a chain. So if in some point if the chain breaks, no point of you having that chain. So you can't categorize this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, 4, 5. You can't categorize that. All these elements are equally important. All these elements are equally important, which will be led by control environment. Equally important, which will be led by control environment. Right. So monitoring and review, in simple language, the efficiency and effectiveness of internal control systems should be monitored and reviewed. Should be monitored and reviewed at regular intervals. That is what you referred as what? monitoring and review. Clear? Right. So are we clear on this? Any questions up to this point?
Yes, sir.
Any questions up to this point before we move further?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So can you just wave the hands who are basically purchased the vLearning pack? Who purchased the vLearning pack? Right, okay. Right, so are we clear on the elements? Right, so you do have the control environment, you do have the control activities, then risk assessment, information and communication, monitoring and review. Right, okay. Right, so now we'll move to the presentation. Now we'll move to the presentation. Right, okay. Can all of you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Right, what are internal controls? Right, so we'll go to the definition. What are internal controls? Internal control is broadly defined as a process we discussed. Process effected by entities board of directors, management and other personnel designed to provide a reasonable assurance regarding the achievement of the objectives. Achievement of the objectives relating to effectiveness and efficiency of operations. Effectiveness and efficiency of operations. Then financial reporting and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. That is one of the definition of internal controls. Internal controls broadly defined as a process effected by entities board of directors, management or other personnel designed to provide a reasonable assurance regarding the achievement of the objectives relating to effectiveness and efficiency of operations, financial reporting and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. This is one definition. So we'll go to another definition. Clear? A process designed and implemented and maintained by those charged with governance, management or other personnel to provide a reasonable assurance about whether the achievement of the entity's objectives with regard to reliability of financial reporting, efficiency and effectiveness of operations, and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. So these two definitions you can take. One, if a question asked with regard to the definition of internal controls, right? Okay, in simple language, it is a process put into effect by board of directors or management. So the implementation of internal control system, implementation of internal control system is basically a responsibility of board of directors and management. It is a process which is implemented by the board of directors and management that designed to provide a reasonable assurance regarding the achievement of the objectives on the following areas. Number one, efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Number two, financial reporting. Number three, compliance with applicable laws and regulations. Right. Are we clear on this? Right. So I'll take this to the full screen. So whoever who wanted can take a picture of this. whoever who wanted can take a picture of this.
Excuse me, sir, is this being recorded?
Sorry?
Is this being recorded?
Yes, yes. So
We
it
have a-
will be, yeah, and it will be the YouTube as well. So it will be recorded, and if you have already purchased the vLearning pack, it will be uploaded to the respective module as well.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Right. So anyone else who is participating, who is not coming to JMC and who has not bought the vLearning pack from JMC? අපේ physical class එකටත් එන්නේ නැති vLearning උන් අරගෙන නැති outside කවුරු ඉන්නවද students ලා? Can you just raise the hands? If you do have someone, just raise the hands. Right, okay. Okay, moving on the presentation. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right, okay. Right, objectives of internal controls. Okay, we discussed about 3 objectives. Number 1, increasing the reliability of financial reporting. Increasing the reliability of financial reporting. That is the first objective. Number 2, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Number 3, compliance with laws and regulations. So increasing the reliability of financial reporting, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, and compliance with laws and regulations, right? Okay, so we'll go to the presentation straight away. Reliability of the financial information, financial statement is one of the key aspects of all intended users. Are focusing when taking the respective economic decisions. So various types of intended users are taking various types of economic decisions based on the financial information and financial statements. So therefore, the above requires the business organization to have a sound internal control system within the business organization which maintain a higher reliability with regard to the financial information. So this is considered as one of the main objectives of business organizations implementing internal control. Right, moving on to the second one, efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Internal controls implemented within the business organization also meant to encourage the efficient and effective use of limited resources. The business organizations will have limited resources. We don't have unlimited resources, no. We only have limited resources, including personnel, to optimize the goals of the business organization. So we do have limited resources, including personnel, for us to optimize the goals of the business organization. In order to do that, we need to have controls in place. In order to do that, we need to have controls in place. Clear? Right. Compliance with laws and regulations. Right, so we'll go to the presentation. There are many laws and regulations that the organizations are required to follow, which are directly and indirectly related to the various aspects of the business operations. Compliance with these laws and regulations are critical for the functions of the organization, and non-compliance of certain laws may affect the going concern ability of the business organization. Very critical. Non-compliance with laws and regulations will have a negative impact on the going concern ability of the business organization. For you to manage that, better to have a proper internal control system within the business organization. Clear? Right, so from broader perspective, there are 3 objectives of internal controls. First one is increasing the reliability of financial reporting. Second one is increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations. Number 3 is basically compliance with laws and regulations. Clear? Right, so I'll take this to the full picture so that you can take a picture of that.
So this is going to be on YouTube as well, is it?
Yes, yes, it is on the YouTube as well.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, elements of internal controls. Elements of internal controls, right. So the first one is what? Control environment. Okay, this refers to the culture of the organization and its attitudes towards the risk. This refers to the culture of the organization and attitudes towards the risk. The effectiveness of an internal control system depends on the attitude to risk and the risk awareness of the people of it. So in simple language, that is the understanding that the management is having with regard to the importance of the internal control. So that is what you referred as control environment. Now control activities. Control activities are the policies and procedures that helps to ensure the management directives are carried out. So what do you mean by management directives are carried out? That means basically the objectives of the control environment. Understand the logic. Control activities are the policies and procedures that helps to ensure that the management directives are carried out. So what do you mean by management directives, which is included in the control environment? They help to ensure that necessary actions are taken to address the risk to achievement of the entity's objectives. Right. Then risk assessment. Risk assessment is the identification and analysis of the relevant risk to the achievement of the objectives, informing the basis for determining how the risk should be managed. Which basically having 3 stages: identification, analysis, plus here they are talking about what? Evaluation. Right. Then information and communication. Relevant information must be identified, captured and communicated in a form and time frame that enable people to carry out their responsibilities. Relevant information must be identified, captured and communicated to the middle level and the lower level people, which will enable them to carry out their responsibilities. So no point of the business organization design the internal controls, no point of top management designing the internal controls unless otherwise they fail to communicate those internal controls to the middle level and the lower level, because they are the people who basically implementing those controls. අපි කොච්චර management එක design කළත් අඩන්නේ implementation එක හරියට වෙන්නේ නැත්තම්. For them to implement those controls, that has to be cascaded clearly from top management to the middle to the lower level. So that is what you referred as information and communication. Finally, monitoring, a process that assesses the quality of the system's performance over the time. This accomplished through ongoing monitoring activities, separate evaluations, or combination of these two. Here you are basically evaluating the efficiency and effectiveness of the implemented internal controls. Right. So are we clear on this? So I'll take this to the full picture so that you can take a picture of this. Okay. Any questions up to this point?
No, sir.
Okay. If you do have any questions, please raise. Right. Okay, now we are moving to the whiteboard once again. Okay, so as I mentioned you earlier, when you look at from the control activities purview, control activities can be segregated into 8 categories. Control activities can be segregated into 8 categories. control activities can be segregated into 8 categories, right? So what are those 8 categories? Those are referred as spam soap. Those are referred as spam soap. Very simple, spam soap. S P A M S O A P. Spam soap. What is this spam soap is all about? What is this spam soap is all about? Right. S stands for segregation of duties, which has been frequently tested at the exam. Segregation of duties. That is the first one. S stands for segregation of duties. Number 2, P stands for physical controls. Physical controls. P stands for physical controls. A stands for authorization and approval. A stands for authorization and approval. M stands for management controls. S stands for segregation of, it stands for supervision. S stands for supervision. O stands for organizational controls. A stands for arithmetical and accounting controls. P stands for personal controls. P stands for personal control. So you have segregation of duties, S. Then you're having physical controls where you can take P. Authorization and approval where you can take A. Management control where you can take M. Supervision where you can take S. Organizational control where you can take O. Arithmetical and accounting control where you can take A. And personal controls you can take P. So this is what the spam soap is all about. Segregation of duties, physical controls, authorization and approval, management control, supervision, organizational controls, arithmetical and accounting control plus personal controls, right? So we'll go on one by one. Clear? We'll go on one by one. Right. Okay, so now I'm moving to the whiteboard once again. Okay, so you have the clear control activity, the description plus an example as well. So you to give a better understanding. Take the full screen. Right. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I have kept few spaces in the tute itself so that you need to take down whatever the points that you wanted. Right. Okay. Control activity. So we'll go one by one. Right. Segregation of duties. Segregation of duties. So what do you mean by segregation of duties? Assigning the work responsibility for different employees or different departments rather than depending on one person or one department. That is what you referred as what? Segregation of duties. You are assigning the work responsibility for different employees or different departments rather than you depending on one person or one department. එක පුද්ගලයෙක් හරි එක department එකක් මත රැඳෙන්නේ නැතුව you are basically segregating the process to different people. That is what you referred as what? Segregation of duties. Classic example that I give is what? Purchasing process is divided into different departments and assigning different responsibilities. Purchasing process is divided into different departments and assigning different responsibilities. That is basically segregation of duties, right? For you to give a better understanding, let me go to a flow chart. For you to give a better understanding, let me go to a flow chart, right? So let's say when you look at from the broader perspective, purchasing process. So this is a classic example of segregation of duties. Let's say purchasing process, I will be segregated into 4 departments. Okay, let's say you have the production department. You have the production department. Then you have the purchasing department. Then you are having the warehouse. So I will be discussing all these in detail when I'm discussing the business processes. I'm just taking this example for you to give a better understanding with regard to the segregation of duties. Then you have the finance. So production department is there, purchasing department is there, warehouse is there, finance is there. Right, so let's say the production department wanted some materials for the production. So initially they will be checking that from the warehouse through the stock system. Through the stock system. Stock system එකෙන් check කරලා බලනවා right තමන්ට ඕන materials warehouse එකේ තියෙනවාද. Right, let's assume the materials are not there. So in that context, production department will prepare a document with 2 copies where that has to be approved by the production manager. This document is referred as what? PR, which is referred as purchase requisition. Purchase requisition. So which has 2 copies. Right, then the original requisition goes to the purchasing department to purchase the raw materials, and the second copy is keeping as a book copy with them. Right, so based on the approved PR, purchasing department will prepare a document in 4 copies. Purchasing department will prepare a document in 4 copies that has to be approved by the purchasing manager. This document is referred as PO. PO stands for purchase order, where you have 4 copies. Original goes to the supplier. Original goes to the supplier. Second copy goes to the warehouse. Third copy goes to the finance, and the 4th copy is keeping as a book copy of them. Right, now the supplier will deliver the goods. Supplier will not deliver the goods to the production, no. They will not deliver the goods to the purchasing department, so they will be handing all the goods to the warehouse. From warehouse side, we are receiving goods. We are receiving goods. Goods received. Okay. Once the supplier handed over the goods to the warehouse, the storekeeper is not accepting the goods as it is. Supplier බඩු ගෙනලා දුන්නට පස්සේ warehouse එකකින් escape කරන්නේ. So then storekeeper will check the goods with the purchase order. So that is why the second copy of the purchase order went into warehouse. ඒක නිසා තමයි purchase order එකේ දෙවෙනි copy warehouse එකට ගියේ. So before accepting the goods, he will be checking the quality of the goods, and he will be checking the goods with the purchase order. Right. So once those two are meshing, the storekeeper will accept the goods, and he will be preparing a document referred as what? GRN. GRN stands for goods received note. Once the GRN raised, it implies that the goods have been accepted by the stores. Now the supplier goes to the finance department to take money. From finance side, we are receiving the sales invoice. We are receiving the sales invoice from the customer, from the supplier. මොකද අපේ පැත්තෙන් purchase කියන්නේ supplier ගේ පැත්තෙන් sales නේ. So the supplier will hand over the sales invoice to us. Then finance department person is already having the PO in his hand. He will be checking the PO with the invoice. He will be checking the PO with the invoice, and he has to make sure that whether the goods have been handed over to the warehouse. So he will be checking that through the stock system. He will be checking that through the stock system, so that he will be checking that with the GRN. He will be checking the GRN. So he will be matching 3 documents: purchase order, invoice, and GRN. This is referred as what? 3-way matching.
Sir, how many copies of the GRN has to be raised?
Sorry?
How many copies of the GRN that we have to raise?
Normally GRN only consists of 1 copy because it is not given to any other parties, no?
So how does finance check? They had to have a look at the GRN copy, no?
Yeah, so in that context, finance and the warehouse is linking together with the stock module, so that the person who is doing the payments can check the GRN through the system itself.
Okay, right.
Got it. So when you enter the PO number, because GRN normally consists of the PO number, no? So once the finance person enter the PO number, so he can show, he can view the respective GRN as well.
Okay, right. Thanks, sir.
Right. So once the 3-way matching is completed, then the finance will make the payment. Finance will make the payment. So this is a classic example of what? Segregation of duties. Clear? This is a classic example of segregation of duties. Here, requesting is done by one department. Clear? Then the ordering is done by one department. Then accepting the goods is done by another department, where the payment is done by another department. This is a classic example of what? Classic example of segregation of duties. Are we clear? Imagine a situation where the entire process is handled by one person. Imagine the situation where the entire process is handled by one person. Then you are basically facing to a unnecessary risk. So that is why segregation of duties are very important. Are we clear on this? Yes or no?
Clear.
Right. Okay, moving on to the second one. Physical controls. අපි සිංහලෙන් කියන භෞතික පාලනයන්. Referred as physical controls. What do you mean by that? These are the controls implemented in order to prevent the unauthorized access to physical assets. These are the controls implemented in order to prevent the unauthorized access to physical assets. Example, using biometric controls to prevent unauthorized access to certain business areas is a classic example of physical controls. Right? Remember, internal controls are not always finance. අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් කියන එක පුතා හැමතිස්සෙම finance ම නෙවෙයි. So it includes finance, it includes operational as well. Clear? That is why there are 3 objectives of internal controls. Clear? Reliability of financial reporting, I would say 100% financial. But increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, that is basically into operations. Compliance with laws and regulations is to compliance. So likewise, internal controls are not 100% focusing on financial reporting. So which is a combination of financial reporting plus operational plus compliance as well. Right. Then authorization and approval. Authorization and approval. These are the controls in place to obtain approval for a certain action prior to being processed. These are the controls in place to obtain approval for action prior to being processed. Very important. Prior to being processed. Clear? Example, before releasing the payment, the finance manager approving the payment voucher. We discussed this. Before releasing the payment, the finance manager will approve the payment voucher. So without having approved payment voucher, none of them are allowed to release cash. Then management control. These are the controls implemented to review the management performance. These are the controls implemented to review the management performance. For an example, you are comparing actuals versus budget to identify unusual fluctuations. So for an example, in your costing, you may concluded the topic called as variance analysis. Costing topic complete කරන්නේ variance analysis කියලා. Basically, you have so many formulas. So if you take sales variance, you are basically comparing actual versus budget. Then you are having a deep dive with regard to sales variance into price variance and volume variance. Then if you go to raw material variance, you are basically comparing the actual versus budget. Then you are having a deep dive with regard to raw material variance, you are comparing usage variance and the price variance. Then the labor variance, you are basically comparing actual versus budget. But when you have a deep dive, there are three elements: rate variance, efficiency variance, and ideal time variance. So likewise, so you need to have proper management controls within the business organization to compare actual versus budget in order to identify the unusual fluctuations. Right. Then comes the supervision. Supervision or observation of activities performed by employees. Supervision also important aspect. You need to supervise the work which has been done by who? Done by employees. Example, operations performed by the employees are supervised by the supervisors. Right. Then organizational controls. These are the controls which is embedded in the overall organizational purview. Basically organizational structure, line of reporting, and etc. So organizational controls are the controls implemented from the broader perspective from the organizational level. Example, having a narrowed organizational structure. Then comes the arithmetical and accounting controls. These are implemented to check the accuracy of recording and processing transactions. Example, preparation of bank reconciliations, which is considered as one of the critical arithmetical and accounting control which is applicable to the reliability of financial reporting. Then you can take preparation of debtors control account and creditors control account to check the accuracy of debtors and creditors ledger. So likewise, you will be having arithmetical and accounting control. Finally, you're having personnel controls. Clear? So in personnel control, so attention should be given to the selection, training and qualification of the personnel, and you need to have proper people within your business organization to run the business operations as well. Clear? So this is basically a broader view of control activities in summary form, which is referred as what? Spam soap. Right. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Right. So I'll give you the full picture so that you can take a picture of this.
So one thing is on the YouTube how do you search for this on YouTube?
Sorry?
To search for this lecture on the YouTube, how do you search?
Basically, it's in the JMC YouTube channel.
Okay. You have to go to the JMC YouTube channel and check for it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, then. Thanks.
Okay. Are you a student who purchased a vLearning pack?
Yeah. Actually,
Okay. Right. Okay. So this the session you can check on YouTube as well whenever you want.
okay. Okay, sir. Thanks.
Right. Okay. Are we clear on this aspect? Right. Okay. Now I'm going to a practical example for you to give a better understanding with regard to the risk assessment. Okay, so we'll go to a practical example for you to give a better understanding with regard to a risk assessment. Right, okay, so all of you received the tute, right?
Yes, we received.
Right, okay, so let me open the tute. Okay. So I have kept few spaces there for you to take down some notes. For an example, if you control activities, I have kept a sufficiently a big space for you to take down the chart with regard to spam. So likewise, I have kept the respective spaces for you to take down the note, right? So let's go to the risk assessment example. So can all of you see the screen? Can all of you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Right. Okay, so we'll go to the question. Practical example of how business organizations are performing risk assessment. One minute. Okay, fine. Now it's much more clear, right?
Yes, you made it larger, so it's clearer.
Right, okay. Practical example of how business organizations are performing risk assessment, right? ABC company is a company which operates in the apparel industry, and managing director of ABC devoted the attention to the following key points in the recent board meeting. Okay, right. So the question says, we'll go to the question first. Question says what? Assume you are the finance manager of ABC company, and based on the above mentioned scenarios, you are expected to carry out risk identification and risk response, right? So rather than risk identification, we'll say risk assessment. Identification is one aspect, no, so we'll say risk assessment. And you are basically wanted to have the risk response as well. Right, so when you look at from the broader perspective, risk assessment basically have three elements. Number one, risk identification. So we'll do the risk identification first. Right, okay. So we'll go to the scenarios one by one. Okay, as a result of the economical policy which has been taken by the government, the prices of the apparel which the company currently export into the European market is increased significantly. And further MD stated that at present, the company prices are much higher than its competitors. Okay, as a result of a government policy which has been taken by the government, now our apparel prices are basically increased, and which is higher compared to the competitors who are located in India and China. Right. Further MD stated that as a result of the price increase, the company is experiencing a significant decrease in the export quantities compared to the previous year. Clear? Compared to the previous year, so there is a significant decrease in the export quantities as well. Okay, so what is the risk which you identified here? What is the risk which you identified here? So you need to do the risk identification first. What is the risk which you identified here? So the risk which you identified here is loss of a major market. Agreed? Agreed? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the first risk which you are facing here is what? Loss of a major market. Clear? Right. So then we'll identify the first risk. Loss of major market. Okay, loss of major market. Right, moving on. The company IT system faced several breakdowns during the last 3 months. And the system has been repaired by system vendor, and they have provided a warranty period of 2 months. Not 2 months, it has to be 2 years. The company IT system several times. Breakdown has been occurred several times for the last 3 months. And the system has been repaired by a system vendor where they have provided the warranty period of 2 years. Right. Okay, what is the risk which I am identified here? What is the risk which I am identified here? The risk which I identified here is IT system breakdown. IT system breakdown. That is the risk which I am identifying here. IT system breakdown. So, right. So, we'll identify that risk as well. IT system breakdown. Clear? Right. Okay, moving on to the third scenario. A local competitor is trying to attract company's most senior and experienced employees while providing a higher salary. And MD further stated that the replacement of these vacancies are much more difficult in the current business context. So the local competitor who is competing with the business organization is planning to attract the senior and experienced employees while providing a higher salary. And MD further stating that the replacement of these vacancies are much higher compared to the current business context. Okay, so what is the risk which you are seeing here? Third one. What is the risk which you are seeing here? Loss of senior and experienced employees. Agreed? Loss of senior and experienced employees, right? So we'll go to the risk identification and identify the risk. Loss of senior and experienced employees. Right. Fourth one. A minor supplier who supplied materials to the company has requested a price increase. A minor supplier who supplies material to the company has requested the price increase, and the company is having the ability to accept the price increase. Yeah, price එක වැඩිවීමක් ඉල්ලනවා, company එක price එක වැඩිවීම accept කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. Further, MD stated that the company is in a position to find new suppliers as well if wanted. අලුතෙන් suppliers ලා හොයා ගන්නත් පුළුවන්. Okay, so what is the risk which you are seeing here? What is the risk which you are seeing here? Loss of minor suppliers. Loss of minor suppliers, right? So we'll take down that under risk identification. Loss of minor suppliers. Loss of minor suppliers, right? So we'll go to the final scenario. Few of the minor employees already resigned from the company. So minor employees already resigned from the company, and several employees are going to resign as well in the near future. However, as PMD, the company is having the ability to recruit new staff under the capacity if the situation demands. Few people, minor employees are going to resign, and already few people resign, and few people are in the pipeline. So that MD further stated if the situation demands, we can recruit those minor employees as well. Right. So what is the risk which I am seeing here? Loss of minor employees. Loss of minor employees. Right. So we'll take down that risk as well. Loss of minor employees. Right. Okay. So how many risks which I identified there? How many risks I identified there? Here I have identified 5 risks. 5. Okay, I identified how many risks? 5 risks. Are we clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, now I'm going to the whiteboard. Okay, this is what you referred as what? Risk identification. This is what you referred as what? Risk identification. You are identifying the risk, whether it is internal or external, you are trying to identify the risk. Clear? Now the risk identification is clear to all of you, which is considered as one of the crucial aspects from the internal control purview. Got it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now, I'm going back to the second element of risk assessment, which is what? Risk analysis. Now, I want to have a deep dive with regard to the risk. Now, I want to have a deep dive with regard to the risk. So, how am I going to analyze the risk? So, when I'm analyzing the risk, I should use this format. When I analyze the risk, I should use this format. Okay. Okay, I will be using this formula, this format. Okay, here I will be taking the impact of the risk. Impact of the risk. Okay, impact I will be considered as high and I will be considered as low. Then I will be taking occurrence of the risk. Occurrence of the risk. Occurrence also I will be taking as high and low. High and low. So now what I am going to do is the risk which I identified in risk identification. The risk which I identified in risk identification. Okay, so the risk which I identified under risk identification, I will be putting into this cage. That is what you referred as risk analysis. So you are analyzing the risk depending on the impact of the risk and the occurrence of the risk. Right, so we'll go to this. Okay, loss of a major market. Okay, loss of a major market. Okay, what do you think about the impact? Is it high or low?
High.
It's high. Why you are saying it's high?
Because then you lose some, your business
Yeah,
revenue.
it is no, it is considered as a major market. Agreed, which is considered as a major market. So as a result of that, the impact is high. Okay, occurrence?
It's also high.
High. Why you are saying its occurrence is high?
Because the
Why you are
loss,
saying the occurrence is high? You need to analyze this. Why you are saying its occurrence is high? Why? Go back to the example and see. Go back to the example and see why the occurrence is high. Competitors are already exporting at a lesser price than us. Agreed. Our prices are much higher than the competitors, and the company is experiencing a significant decrease in export quantities in this quarter compared to the previous quarter. So the occurrence is again high. You got the point? Yes or no? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so occurrence is also high. Are we clear on this?
yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
then I will be putting the risk here. The first risk I am putting here. So I'll put number 1 there. Clear? I'll put number 1 there. Okay, are we clear on this? Yes or no?
Yes, yes, yes.
Right. Then IT system breakdown. IT system breakdown. What do you think about the impact of the risk? IT system breakdown. What do you think about the impact of the risk?
High.
The impact is high. Agreed. But the occurrence?
That can be low.
Why you are saying it's low?
Because the IT system doesn't break down every day.
Not because of that. Agreed. Occurrence is low, but not because of that reason. The question itself says the reason. What is that? Supplier already provided a warranty period of how many years?
2 years.
2 years. As a result of that, your occurrence is low. So you are classifying your second risk here. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Got it? Right. Go to the third one. Loss of senior and experienced employees. Okay. What do you mean by impact? High or low?
Impact is high.
Impact එක high ද lowද? Impact is high. Why you are saying it's high? Why you are saying it's high?
Because you're losing a senior management personnel.
Not really. That is not the exact reason. Go to the question and check. Why you are saying the impact is high? This is the reason. If those people left, replacement of those kind of caliber people will be a challenging task. Not because of their senior and experienced employees. That is one aspect, but that is not the main reason. MD is saying that if those people leave, the replacement of those vacancies in the current business context is a challenging one. So therefore, the impact is high. Impact is high, right? Occurrence? What do you think about the occurrence? High or low? High or low? Occurrence also high. Why? If the competitors are offering a higher salary, they will definitely leave. In that context, I will be ranking the third risk here. I will be ranking the third risk here. Okay, are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay, loss of minor suppliers. Loss of minor suppliers. What do you think about the impact?
That's low.
Okay, low. Why you are saying it's low?
The question says that you can find similar suppliers.
Sorry?
Question says that you can find other suppliers.
Exactly. So the question says you can find other suppliers as well. Okay, MD further stated that if we wanted, we can have the ability to find other suppliers as well. So then the impact is low. Then the occurrence? Occurrence? I would say occurrence also low. I would say occurrence also low. Why? Because the question says the company can give the price increase as well. So if we give the price increase, the suppliers will remain with us. So the impact is low since we can find new suppliers. And occurrence is also low because the company is having the ability to give that price increase as well. So the impact also low and the occurrence is also low. Are we clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right. Final one, loss of minor employees. Impact? Impact? High the low the? Impact is high or low? Impact is low. Why? MD says we are having the ability to find new employees as well. Clear? Right. then the impact is low. Occurrence? Occurrence, what do you think? Occurrence high. Why you are saying it's high? Several people already resigned and few are in the pipeline as well. So therefore, occurrence is what? Occurrence is high. Sorry. Occurrence is high. So I will put number 5 here. Got it? So that is what you referred as what? Risk analysis. So you identified the risk, and identified risk will be basically differentiate. You are categorizing those risks while considering the impact and while considering the occurrence as well. So that is a classic example of risk analysis. Are we clear?
Yes.
Right. So that is what you referred as what? Risk analysis. That is what you referred as what? Risk analysis. Finally, going to what? Finally, we are going to risk evaluation. So based on the analysis, you are basically evaluating the risk. Now I am going to the whiteboard again. So smart board again. Okay. Based on this, if I wanted you to rank those risks on priority basis, if I wanted you to rank those risks on priority basis, where you put P1, P1 refers to priority 1. To which cage you are putting P1? I will be putting P1 to this cage. So that is basically a risk which I need to give priority, first priority. So out of the 5 risks which I identified here, so I will be putting P1 there. While giving first priority for those 2 risks. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Then I will be putting P2 where? I will be putting P2 here, where the impact is high and the occurrence is low. Basically, the IT system breakdown. Okay, so out of the 5 risks, I will be giving my second preference to this. Then I will be putting P3 here. And I will be putting P4 here. This is all about what? Risk evaluation. This is all about what? Risk evaluation. So if I am the managing director of this company, I will be not bothering about this risk, and I will be not bothering about this as well. So if I am the managing director of this company, I will be not wasting my time while providing solutions for risk 4 and risk number 5, because which is basically in the managerial level for me. Clear? No point of me wasting my time on risk number 4 and risk number 5, where I do have much more critical risk than those 2 where I needed my resources and my attention to be there on first. So I will be basically putting number 1 here, and I will be putting number 2 here. So that is all about risk assessment. Clear? Got it?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? Are we clear on this?
Clear, sir. Yes.
Right. Okay. Right. Coming back to the final segment. With regard to the introduction of internal controls. Okay. Finally, even though you defined all this properly, even though you have the required spam soap, so there are inherent limitations. There are inherent limitations of internal control systems. There are inherent limitations of internal control systems. අපි කියන අභ්‍යන්තර පාලන පද්ධතිවල තියෙන ආවේනික සීමා. So there are inherent limitations of internal controls, right? Okay, so when you look at from the broader perspective, there are 5 inherent limitations. When you look at from the broader perspective, there are 5 inherent limitations, right? What is the first one? First one is referred as cost focus. So the first inherent limitation is referred as what? Cost focus. So what do you mean by cost focus? What do you mean by cost focus? Okay, let me ask a small question. What is the end objective of the business organization?
To make a profit.
Yes, to make a profit. Okay, so when you're making a profit, what you need to do? If you want to make a profit, what you need to do? You need to increase your revenue and you need to decrease your expenses. Increase in the revenue and decrease in your expenses where you will be having a profit. Agreed? Right. Okay, let's take a classic example. Let's assume your people are the finance managers. Your people are the finance managers of a business organization. Okay, so this is your first appointment. Let's say this is your first appointment. Okay, when you go as a finance manager, you saw a major control weakness there. What is that control weakness? So let's say there is no responsible party for cash related transactions. Cash handling, no one is there to take the responsibility. Okay, customers are settling to each and every employee of the business organization. No receipts issued upon accepting the cash, and people are expensing and their own. So the cashiers are not having, basically the employees are not having any control. Daily collection is used for daily operational activities. So you saw major control weakness there. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do, that you are going to do, is to recruit 2 people. As finance manager, you are recruiting 2 people. Number 1, you are recruiting a main cashier, general cashier, and you are recruiting a petty cashier as well. So let's say you agree to pay a salary of 30,000 rupees. We'll take a basic example. Let's say you agree to pay a salary of 30,000 rupees for the general cashier on monthly basis, and you agree to pay 20,000 rupees for the petty cashier as well. So monthly, you are basically incurring a cost of 50,000. When you multiply it by that 12, comes to 600,000. Okay, so as a result of the implementation of this control, you are additionally incurring a 600,000 expense. You are additionally incurring an expense of 600,000. Okay, my question is this. As the finance manager of the business organization, once you incur a cost of 600,000 for a year to implement the internal control, are you comparing that cost versus the benefit, monetary benefit? Are you, once you incur 600,000, once you incur 600,000 expense to implement the internal control, at the end of the financial year, are you comparing that expense with the monetary benefit that you received? Yes or no?
Yes.
ඔයා ඒ වියදම් කරන සල්ලි ටික අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයේ ස්ථාපිත කරන්න ඒක ප්‍රතිලාභයත් එක්ක සංසන්දනය කරනවාද? Yes or no? Yes, you are comparing, because the end objective of the organization is to make profit. But if you do compare the cost which you are incurred for internal control with the monetary benefit that you are receiving itself, it is considered as an inherent limitation. That is what you referred as what? Cost focus. That is what you referred as what? Cost focus. So whatever the cost which you are incurring for internal controls should not be compared with the monetary benefit. ඔය අභ්‍යන්තර පාලනයන් සඳහා දරන පිරිවැය කිසිම වෙලාවක ප්‍රතිලාභයත් එක්ක සංසන්දනය කරන්න එපා. So you can't compare those two together. So if you are comparing cost versus the monetary benefit, the objective of you implementing the internal control will not come to the picture. Agreed. But what if this situation occurs? So let's say you have not incurred any cost. You have not incurred any cost because the 600,000 is a massive amount. You have not recruited 2 employees. Okay, you have not recruited 2 employees and you keep the flow processes. Okay, you keep the activity to continue. If something goes wrong, let's say a fraud taken place, and the magnitude of that fraud will be much more than 600,000. ඒ control එක දාන්න නැතුව ඉඳලා වංචාවක් වුණොත් ඒකෙන් ඇති වෙන බලපෑම it will be more than 600,000. Agree. So you need to compare that with that. Okay, you can't compare the monetary expenses versus monetary benefit. But agree with the fact that yes, we incurred 600,000 rupees, but as a result of incurring that cost, as a result of implementing that internal control, the tendency of having frauds in relation to cash got minimized. I'm repeating that again. As a result of the implementation of that internal control, the tendency of having frauds in relation to cash got minimized. So as a result of that, your business organization is benefiting. But you can't compare the monetary benefit. You can't compare that advantage to a monetary value. Agreed. So in that context, you need to compare from that angle rather than you comparing 600,000 versus the monetary benefit. මං ලක්ෂ 6ක් වියදම් කළා කොහමද benefit එක ලක්ෂ 6ක් ආවාද? So if you are comparing that perspective, the advantage of you implementing the internal control will not effectively come to the business organization, which is considered as a inherent limitation of internal control, which is referred as cost focus. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? Yes. Okay. To give more clarity, I'll give you a classic example. Okay, for the people who purchase vLearning from JMC, how much you paid for auditing subject? For you to purchase this vLearning pack, how much you paid for the auditing subject?
6,000.
Okay, you paid 6,000 rupees. Right, okay. Have you received any monetary benefit while incurring 6,000 rupees as of now? Have you received any monetary benefit while incurring 600,000 rupees as of now? Have you received a monetary benefit?
No.
Yeah.
No. Agreed? But if you are comparing the 600,000 versus the monetary benefit, you will be not purchasing this pack. But remember, 600,000 cost which you incurred embedded future benefits. 600,000 which you are incurring today is embedded future benefits which will be reaping to you at the future period. So you need to compare that versus that. 6,000ක් වියදම් කළා කෝ ප්‍රතිලාභය නෙමෙයි බලන්න ඕන. 6,000ක් අද වියදම් කළා ප්‍රතිලාභය මට අනාගතයේ හම්බෙනවා ඒක 6,000ට වඩා වැඩි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So you need to look at from that angle. Agreed. But most of the business organizations, their objective is to make profit, is to maximize the profit. So they always compare cost versus benefit. You can compare cost versus benefit for anything, but better you do not compare cost versus benefit for internal controls. So if you are comparing cost versus benefit for internal controls itself, it is considered as inherent limitation. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. In simple language, what do you mean by cost focus? Management always compare cost incurred for internal controls with the monetary benefit. With the monetary benefit. That is what you referred as what? Cost focus. Clear? Right. Going back to the second one. Management overriding the control. Keep it simple. Management overriding the control. What do you mean by management overriding the control? What do you mean by management overriding the control? What do you mean by management overriding the control? What do you mean by management overriding the control? So who will be responsible for the implementation of internal controls in the business organization?
The
Management.
management.
Management will be responsible for the implementation of internal controls in the business organization. But by using the power which they have, the people who are responsible for the implementation of internal controls may override those controls themselves. Can be happen or can't be happen?
Can.
For an example, management will be responsible for the implementation of internal controls in the business organization. Okay, board of directors are responsible to implement the internal controls in the business organization, but based on the power which they have in the business organization, there will be a tendency of they themselves overriding the controls which they have already designed and implemented. That is what you referred as what? Management overriding the control. Can be happen or can't be happen?
Can happen.
It can be happen. So that is what you referred as what? Management overriding the control. Board of directors or management themselves, board of directors or management, by using the power overriding the control. Overriding the controls. That is what you referred as management overriding the control. Then the third one, which is referred as collusion. What do you mean by collusion? Collusion means management or employees get together, basically manipulating the internal controls with the objective of obtaining unjustifiable advantage. That is what you referred as what? Collusion. Clear? So management or the board of directors get together and basically manipulating those internal controls with the objective of getting undue advantage. So for an example, overriding the control can be considered as an error, but collusion will be considered as what? It's a fraud. Overriding the control can be considered as an error. Collusion is considered as what? Considered as fraud. Right. So collusion is all about what? Management, employees deviating from internal controls with the objective of getting undue advantage. Getting undue advantage. That is what you referred as what? Collusion, right? So you will be having cost focus, management overriding the control, plus collusion. Right, okay. My question is this. Who designed those internal controls? Management. Who develop all these internal controls? Management or board of directors. But who is going to implement those controls? Who is going to implement those controls? Basically the employees. People can do what? Mistakes. People can do what? Mistakes, which is not purposefully done. Okay, so even at the time of we implementing the internal control, so mistakes can be taken place from the employees, which is again part and parcel of what? Inherent limitation. Okay, cost focus, management overriding the control, collusion, and human errors. Though the final limitation is what? Internal controls are mainly focusing on what? Mainly focusing on day-to-day operations, which is another risk factor. Internal controls are mainly focusing on day-to-day operational aspects. Okay, let me give a classic example. Okay, let's say a sales representative. Okay, take all these examples to your mind. A sales representative taking the goods from the company and he basically goes outside and selling the goods. So the agreed price, the standard price is 100 rupees. Okay, once he goes out, he put a tag, removing the tag of 100 and he put the tag of 110 and he is selling the items at 110 and keeping the 10%, 10 rupees with him and he settled the company 100 rupees. Okay, fraud or an error?
Fraud.
It's a fraud.
Fraud.
It's a fraudulent activity. So in order to prevent that fraudulent activity, you're basically implementing internal control. Okay, let's say you decide on a proper pricing policy. In order to prevent all these kinds of issues, you're basically implementing a proper pricing policy. ව්‍යාපාරය තුළ නිශ්චිත මිල ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් දානවා. Good control or bad control? It's a very good control to have. Agreed? In order to prevent a fraud of a 10 rupee, which may happen on daily basis, which may happen on day-to-day transactions, you are putting a control to prevent or detect that fraudulent activity. So you are putting that control to prevent or detect that fraud or error. It's a very good thing to have. Agreed? It's a very good thing to have. But let's say an ad hoc transaction, because business organization may have 90% they will be having day-to-day transactions, but 10% they will be having ad hoc transaction as well. So for an example, let's say fixed asset purchase. ස්ථාවරවත්කම් මිලදී ගන්නවා. Fixed asset purchase will not done on daily basis. No. Fixed asset purchase may not done on daily basis. So therefore, the management is not focusing on internal controls on fixed assets then. Sales and debtors, purchases and creditors, cash and bank, inventory. So those are day-to-day transactions. So all the internal controls are rounded based on the day-to-day transactions. But if something happens in ad hoc transactions like fixed asset purchase, fixed asset sale, where the magnitude of the fraud may be much higher than a day-to-day transaction, where the impact of a fraud is much more higher than the day-to-day transactions. So therefore, as management, when you are developing internal controls, it is very much essential for you to have internal controls for day-to-day transactions, as well as, I'm repeating that again, as management, when you are implementing internal controls, you need to have internal controls for day-to-day transactions, plus you need to have internal controls for ad hoc transactions as well. Despite whether they are happening or not on regular basis, better to have internal controls for ad hoc transactions as well. Agreed? Because if something happens on ad hoc transactions, the magnitude of that impact, the magnitude of that error is much more higher than a day-to-day transaction. Agreed? The magnitude of that error is much more higher than the day-to-day transaction. So therefore, internal controls has to be there for day-to-day transactions as well as for ad hoc transactions as well. But since the cost is considered as a very critical factor for internal controls, management always focusing on the internal controls on day-to-day transactions, which is considered as an inherent limitation of internal control system. Clear? So those are the 5 inherent limitations which is applicable for internal control. So you can't control, final point, you can't control these limitations while implementing a control. මේ කිසිම ආවේනික සීමාවක් control එකක් දාලා control කරන්න බෑ. Agreed? So you can't control these limitations while putting a control. That is why those are considered as what? Inherent limitations. Those are anyway embedded within the internal control systems. Agreed? Those are anyway embedded within the internal control system. So that is why those are referred as what? Inherent limitations of internal control system. Rather than you say limitations of internal controls, you are basically putting a word in front saying that inherent limitations. අභ්‍යන්තර පාලන පද්ධතිවල ආවේනික සීමා. So you can't control those limitations while putting a control. So for an example, management overriding the control. Every day management is overriding the control. Every time management is basically comparing cost versus benefit. Agreed? When the internal controls are going to implement, people can make mistakes. Human errors can be there. Agreed? So you can't control those limitations while putting a control. So that is why those are referred as what? Inherent limitations of internal controls. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Got it?
Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. So when you look at from the broader perspective, Manoj, when you look at from the broader perspective, these are the areas that I wanted to cover. So we discuss about objectives of internal controls. Based on those objectives, we covered the definition of internal controls. Then based on the objectives and definition, we discuss about elements of internal controls where you have 5 elements. Then based on the second element, we have discussed about spam soap, which is basically referred to detailed analysis of control activities starting from segregation of duties, physical controls, authorization and approval, management control, supervision control, organizational control, arithmetical and accounting control, and personal control. Then finally, we discuss about inherent limitations of internal control systems. Clear? So this entire thing, when you get together each other, which is basically the introduction about internal control system. Clear? Okay, so I will ask the JMC vLearning team to try their level best to get this entire thing to one frame. Can we take this into one frame? Okay, so screen එක විතරක් ගන්න පුළුවන්ද? Full එකක්. Screen එකට එම ගන්න බැයිද? Alright, okay. So fine. So this is basically give you an overall understanding. Can all of you see the screen?
Can see.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this will be considered as a master short note. Okay, so this will be considered as a master short note for the introduction of internal controls. So I wanted all of you to take down this in a separate sheet. If not, in the tute itself, I kept the final page blank for you to take a master short note which covers the entire areas with regard to the introduction of internal controls. Clear? Right. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, fine. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Then that will brings us to the end of introduction to internal control chapter. So I hope all of you got a detailed understanding with regard to this segment. So where I will be requesting the JMC vLearning team to upload the entire thing to JMC vLearning platform so that you can review the people who already purchased this vLearning platform, vLearning subject, so that they can view this session as much as possible which they wanted. And so this will basically cover you the entire coverage of introduction to internal control. So that is why we basically wanted this session to be a free session where other students who are not physically come to JMC or who have not purchased vLearning from us, so that they also can join with us to basically gain their understanding to a deeper perspective with regard to internal control. So that will brings us to the end of this free session where I have covered every aspect of introduction of internal controls. So let me give my contact number to you. So if you do have any concerns with regard to the subject matter, so that you can call me at any given point of time. So it's not 779 539 969 and it's not 775 421 927. Okay, so these are the two contact numbers so that you can reach me at any given point of time. So these two phones are on 24/7 into 365 days. So that you can reach me at any given point of time if you do have any clarifications. Right. Okay, so that concludes the session. And thank you very much for joining once again. And again, I will ask, I'm telling this, so I'll ask JMC vLearning team to upload this to the learning platform as soon as possible so that you can view this as much as you want. Okay, so we'll finish for the day then. Okay, thank you very much for joining once again and good night for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir. Good night.